Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to the channel. This is Antigonus Gaming with Metroid Prime Remaster. In the last video, we introduced Samus. She infiltrated the space pirate frigate and came down to Tallon IV, the planet she chased the space pirates to. And we explored a little bit of the Chozo ruins. We got our missile launcher back, and we got the morph ball back. So after we lost a lot of our power-ups, we were also just chatting about the Switch 2. So in the last video, I was starting to go on a comment about accessibility. My understanding is that the Switch 2 will have more accessibility with some screen reader tech. The problem that the gaming industry has, and we're in a room known as the Gathering Hall. There's a door right in front of us, and then there's a series of platforms that we can hop across to get up to another door on the top. We're actually hopping up those platforms. I'm doing this in a different order than I usually do it, but I think that might save me a little bit of time, actually. So we take the morph ball through a little tunnel here, and there's a bunch of these shriek bats, the things that, like, suicide into us. So we gotta take them out, and then we're gonna hop across this gap here. And then we grab the HP and we'll go through the door. We're in a stone hallway here. And the stone is like a light sandstone-y kind of color. There's lots of inscriptions on some of it, but you know, it's falling apart. These are ruins after all. Now we're in a hallway with a bunch of the eye laser things. So we'll have to stun them with our power beam here. Or we can just skip right through. Either way works fine. And then we're gonna head to we're in the energy core. And if we look in front of us, there's a door that's locked. And we can actually scan the lock thing on it. It's like a hexagon in the middle that has like arms that are reaching out on the different parts. It's a lock system. So that's one of our logbook entries, and it will unlock when we meet the conditions that are met. Typically, these conditions are either activating a specific switch or defeating a boss or all the enemies or something. So we got a stone toad. These are like toads that will stone toads are able to remain still for days. They prey upon creatures smaller than itself, inhaling them whole. Anything it finds undigestible, it regurgitates. Stone toad uses their tusks, the last resort in combat. So the way those work is you get into your morph ball mode, and then they'll eat you, and then you lay a morph ball bomb inside their body, and it destroys them. But we don't have the morph ball bomb just yet. But we're in the burn dome now, which is we see a room, there's a huge war wasp nest on the ceiling. There's like a little bit of water in the middle, and then the rest of the floor is just flat. And then a flamethrower device pops up, and this thing is another boss, so we scan it. It's an incinerator drone, a program for high temperature waste disposal. Device schematics indicate a high-risk malfunction when its internal power core is damaged. Unit has minimal combat programming, but it can defend itself if necessary. This drone's intense heat blast compensate for its lack. So it just sprays fire out from two flamethrowers, and it just goes around in a circle. And then there's a thing that pops up on the top that we can attack. And then when we attack it too many times, it sprays up into the war wasp. And we gotta scan these war wasps. These are barbed war wasps. They got a brighter yellow body than the normal gold-looking standard war wasps. Airborne insects with the ability to launch stinger at prey, a highly aggressive member of the war wasp family. This insect can propel its tip up to 20 meters. The stinger tip regrows seconds after launch, contained in an acidic compound. Designed to pre-digest prey. So now that the nest is on fire, it'll start and then spawning the war wasps. And the reason it's important to scan those is just like the ram war wasp from the hive totem, is that this is the only fight where we encounter this particular variety of war wasp. So if we miss them, then we just can't get 100%. Alright, and then it sprays it up into the air. Again, oh. Not quite yet. Alright, so we've hit it 3 times. I believe one more time ought to finish this boss off. So these are actually more like mini bosses. There we go, and then it sprays up in the air again. The fire finally destroys the war wasp nest. And then the incinerator drone explodes. The other war wasps disappear. We get this little circular upgrade. Samus gets into her morph ball again. Automatically, there's like energy spraying out from her. And then she lays down the morph ball bomb, which we now have access to. And the door was previously locked. But now it's not. There's like a little broken piece of wall here that we can blow up, which will unlock a pathway into a room. Oh, into a room that leads us to a missile expansion. So we're now back to 15 missiles, which is where we were before. And now we roll up these. We had to go through these little like morph ball tunnels. And now with the morph ball bomb, we can actually get back into them, because the bomb will help her like hop up. And now we got another thing we can scan, which is a morph ball slot. This slot is active. It's like a slot that her morph ball can fit into. It's shining blue. Insert the morph ball and detonate a bomb will usually cause these slots to send electrical impulses to activate different types of devices. In this case, it's attached through like some cords to some kind of like generator thing. And then the generator, like there's like a beam coming out of it. It lights up, and there's like a circular device that's comes down, and it actually drains the water out of the energy core. But as you can hear, there's a timer. So, and then there's another one that looks the exact same on the bottom that was couldn't see previously because of the water. That one turns on, and now a bunch of platforms that were on the bottom rise up along some, beams that they were attached to. So we can hop across those. And then there's a third generator that we gotta turn on in like a hidden room. We do that. It raises up another set of platforms, and it unlocks the door, and it permanently keeps the water drained out. So now we can go through there. We won't really be able to do that much, but there's an energy tank in there, so that'll get her another 100 HP, which will be nice, because the more HP you got, the longer. So now we're going through a more metallic hallway here. We can see below there's like a bunch of like hot, fiery stuff. We're actually headed into the room we're in is called the furnace, but there's this weird orange and black looking magnetic track that we can't use. It says spider ball augmentation required, so clearly there's some kind of a technology, but we can roll through a lower pathway that we do have access to, and it takes us into like this little room. This is an energy tank. And then we can just come right back. So now that fully heals us, and we got 100 more health. So, yeah. I'm actually really excited for Metroid Prime 4. I think I said in the last video, though, I'll probably just buy it on the original Switch. I know that means I'll end up having to spend money on the Switch 2 upgrade or whatever. But it is what it is, and to me that is a price I'm willing to pay to ultimately hold off on buying a new console. They haven't yet re-released Metroid Prime 2 or 3, but in reality the first one is really the best one, because even though there's not really a lot of other characters in this game, it's just kind of cool where she's like exploring a dead planet that has also been found by the space pirates. So it's just kind of a cool concept of like walking through a dead civilization. As someone who really enjoys like ancient history and stuff, you know, kind of scratches that itch for me. So now we're walking through another hallway, and this one's partly flooded. There's a little platform we can jump on that will then take us across to the other side. When you hear that like weird sound, what that means is that like there's an item to get, so we actually can blow up the wall here and grab another missile expansion. So now we're up to 20 missiles total, though we only have 19 currently. So we got a missile thing to blow up to open the door, and now we're in the watery hall. It's like a U-shaped room that has 2 levels. And there's a gate we're gonna have to unlock. And to unlock that gate, we have to scan 4 like runes, and when the runes light up, that will allow us to scan the gate, which will then open it. So we got the first one, which was along the wall right next to the door. The second one is underneath a bunch of mushrooms, and then so now we're underneath the huge gate. We can look up and we can see it. It's like got 4 runes on it, and then there's like a circular thing in the middle, and then there's just like grate around it. There's another one here along the ledge underneath the upper area that we can't get into yet. Now we have to hop back. And because the water's poisonous, we can't just walk through the water. Once we fix the poison with water, then it won't be a problem anymore. But we haven't done that yet. So we hop up some platforms. Got the Reaper vines. We have to be aware for them. Those tentacle vines, like one just knocked me off, so now I have to start all over again. But yeah, so I'm really excited for the Switch. I mean, too, but I'm holding my money. One of the big things is that a lot of the hardware costs went up, even though for the accessories, even though the Switch 2, Nintendo's decided that they're better off just selling it at a loss to make sure that they move systems and they'll recoup the money over the life of the system with game sales. That, you know, getting that install base is important, because there's only really a handful of titles that they'll release over the course of the life of the system that will actually sell systems. Okay, so we scan the gate, it opens up. Now we're in like a small little like hallway area. We see a bunch of those ion things, but they're closed. And then there's like an upgrade here, and there's some Chozo lore. So we're gonna scan the Chozo lore first. Chozo script translated. Disaster struck suddenly. We had a vague, dark foreboding, and it became truth. A meteor appeared from nowhere, casting a dark shadow of debris over the land with the violence of its impact. Its destructive force spent, the fallen star burned itself out rapidly, and the incident should have faded into memory, but what the meteor brought with it, corruption. A great poison burst forth from the land, a strange energy that clawed at natural life with ferocity. That strange negative energy emitted from the meteor expanded to encompass Tallon IV in a night, as a spider weaves a web. So now we're gonna grab this upgrade. So now we have the charge beam. So that will let us, we were able to use that before. But, we lost it in the explosion. So now we can charge up. I hold the A button and it creates like a yellow orb and it just blasts it. So we can destroy the ions. There's actually another one of these little crumbled walls here that I can destroy with the morph ball bombs. So I can roll through that, and that will take me to another room that has it's a small, very tower-like room. We can't go up to the top part because it requires that spider ball thing, but we can blow up a little thing and grab the first missile expansion in this area, which is on the bottom level of it. So, and then, you know, there's some boxes we can blow up, I guess, and we can... They didn't drop anything, so we'll just get out of here. So we can go back the way we came. Now we gotta destroy all these ions. Then I believe after that... should be able to fight the boss, the big boss of this area. There's like 4 or 5 bosses, I think, counting the... no, I think there's 6 bosses. There's 6 big bosses in the game. One of them we're gonna fight. So you know, one of the things you always have to consider when buying a console is, like, the price of, the requisite additional accessories and hardware that go with it. So, like, Nintendo transitioned away from controllers, you know, several generations ago with the Wii, and, so they have what's known as the Pro controllers. You can buy, you can also buy old retro GameCube and N64 controllers too, which will help you play some of their ports if you don't want to remap all the buttons, or depending on how much button remapping can be done. But I mean, that stuff's expensive. I think that I was talking with someone, and that was a really good point they made, that, like, okay, now we're back in that big arboretum, and this room is similar to the Watery Hall in that, we have to scan these runes to open up a door at the top of the arboretum. So we're going to climb up along the tree, and as we do that, we're going to encounter more of these runes. So there's, like, platforms and walkways along the side of the room. And with the missile launcher, we can blow up the war wasp nests before they show up. Which helps, 'cause the nests spawn lots of them. So one thing that was a good move by Nintendo was to let us still be able to use the old Switch 1 controllers. Even though I think there is some compatibility issues with, like, the home button and stuff like that, which would be kind of annoying, which I'm sure they did that as a way to save money on development time and to encourage people to upgrade by saying, oh, you know, you'll be able to use most of the features, but not all of them. So we got a new creature. This is a venom weed, poisonous plant that retracts into the ground, so it shows, like, the weed coming up out of the ground. There's, like, a thing that's growing out of under the ground that looks all, like, bright red, so it's clearly poisonous. The ends of the weeds, this grass is red as opposed to green for the non-poisonous version. Venom weeds evolved to thrive in the habitats of large organisms. They lure prey with brightly colored leaves, then detain it with tiny barbs that deliver a powerful toxin. Venom weeds rapidly decompose anything that succumbs in their midst. So we have to shoot them to get them to disappear, and then quickly use the morph ball to get through it, which we did. Oh, we missed one of the runes. Oh. Go back through the poison. Yep, here it is. I walked right past it. And I was fighting the war wasps. Alright, so, and then there's like a thing where it pans the room from bottom to top, and then we see like there's a gate, a great gate that opens up from an area that has like 4 pillars around it. We're gonna have to use the morph ball to get through, but it's fine. You can clearly tell it's an important area by the fact that we had to scan the switches to open it, and then there's a bunch of pillars and stuff around it. There's all kind of like art and stuff along the walls in this room, so you can clearly tell it was a very important place for the Chozo when their civilization was thriving. Roll through. There's a missile thing we blow up. Now we're walking through. We got more of these poisonous weeds, more of the Reaper vine things, the vines with the eyes, so, you know, they're clearly... Another stone hallway. This is the sun chamber access. We were just in the sun chamber lobby, even though it was more like a hallway. And when you look at the map, you know this sun chamber is a big thing. It's a big, circular-looking room, all the way up at the top. You know, looks very different from any other room in the entire area. Very clear.
Recorded to logbook.
Small missile resupply. So, and we walk in, and there's this massive plant, flower thing, red flower in the middle. And as soon as we walk in, it shoots a bunch of poisonous plants at us. There's all these... The ceiling is pretty much ruined, and there's all these sun dials, and then growing out of it is a huge, monstrous, plant-like creature. It's got a yellow underbelly, green hive, red eyes. It's got arms that have, like, scythes on them. So, it's called Flagra. Flagra, a mutant plant that is the source of the toxic water in the ruins. Flagra's growth cycle has been radically accelerated. As a result, it requires near constant exposure to solar energy to remain active. The exposure has made Flagra's outer shell thick and endurable. Its lower root system is unprotected and vulnerable, however. Exploit this flaw when possible. Concentrated weapon fire can daze it for short periods. So, it'll flash yellow when you attack it, symbolizing that you're... I'm trying to scan this thing that's literally right in front of me. Okay. One of Flagra's tentacles fills... and... Alright, so... There's like a sun thing that's like reflecting sunlight onto it. And then when I knock it up, it stuns Flagra and it falls down. And then there's these little bridges that go across to the base of the giant red flower that have the morph ball slots. And when I use a bomb in it, it lights Flagra on fire because because its roots are not as protected as the main beast's body. Now 2 of the sun mirrors are down, so I'm gonna have to have them both be up. And Flagra actually has a full-on health bar, the way the Parasite Queen did. So, and when you stun it, it just kind of like meanders there. falls over again. So I'm gonna go across this one. Lights Flagra on fire again. It shrinks down into the flower. But going back to the whole thing about there's only a handful of games that will sell a console, like a 3D Mario game for many people, that's an experience. You're willing to pay the entry point for that. I think I talked about this on my last video too. You know, for strategy gamers, Fire Emblem is an experience. So a brand new Fire Emblem game would be enough to get someone like me who loves strategy games to buy in, if it looks good. If it's like a disaster, which Fire Emblem is a high level of quality, I doubt it would be that. You know, even Fire Emblem Engage, which was heavily criticized by both hardcore fans and casuals alike for different reasons, was still a solid, good game that sold close to 2 million copies, despite all of the issues it had and the uphill press it had. So, you know. Oh, this has gone pretty easy, actually. Usually Flagra will knock down at least one of the, when you knock the sundials, the sun mirrors up, Flagra will, although I may have missed this one, because I had to roll all the way around. Yep. I knocked them all down, but, because I was too far away. Yep, there we go. It knocked it down. So you want to time it up so that the last one you knock down is right next to the bridge you want to get on. Because this is the last one. So now Flagra's on fire, they're blinking red, they're shrinking down into the flower. And like fresh, nice looking plants start flowing out of it. Water starts flowing out. It originally looked green, now it doesn't look green, now it looks normal. The water turns the bluish shade again, so the poison's been cleared out. And we see like a spinning thing with the Samus logo on it. We got the Various suit back, so he's got her like shoulder pads again and all that stuff. We actually can't go back through the way we came yet, so we go back through this other tunnel, which is partly flooded. This will take us to the Sun Tower, which is just another room we have to go through. There's more we can do in the Sun Tower later. There's a yellow energy, which we can scan. An ultra energy replenishes 100 units. So it fully heals us. There's like this weird electrical It's like a nucleus electron thing. It's a pulse Bamu life form. It's like a blue orb of electricity with 3 yellow orbs floating around in it. They lack any intelligence, but they can just drop, like, they just drop the yellow electrical things. We can destroy them eventually, but we don't have the beam weapon for it yet. So we jump down through the sun tower. We want to go back up it. We need the spider ball. We're immediately ambushed by 4 wasps. Like, there's 4 nests of them, so we have to destroy that. There's Chozo lore in here that we want to scan.
Recorded to logbook.
New Chozo lore has been into your logbook. The cries of this dying land echo in our ears as we Chozo watch the great poison seep ever further into the living pulse of the planet. The dark energy sinks into the trees and waters, and devouring all life. Peaceful beasts die by the thousands. Some creatures survive, but their forms grow twisted and evil as the force that fell from the sky. Many of these mutated monstrosities remain small enough to do little harm, but others grow enormous and threaten our very existence. One such beast defiles our sacred fountain, disgorging poison from its foul form, replacing pure flowing water with cascades of creeping death. Even in the face of such horror, we Chozo do not turn in fear. We are all that stands in the way of this great poison, and it's our duty. So you can kind of see, you know, that, you know, they were scared. Now they're scanning up. So there's another elevator. We'll scan it and turn it on, but we're not going to use it quite yet. Access to Magmore Caverns North granted. So we are going to go through there, but there's other stuff we want to do here first to get some last remaining upgrades. So you can kind of see how their mindset is as they're fighting against the Phazon, which is the name of the poison. So now we're in the vault. There's another Chozo lore along the right side. It's a big square room. The future is a vague thing, ever-changing and always in doubt. Even if we Chozo could gain the ability to foresee the future, it would be a hollow gift, for we could never hope to control what is yet to occur. The fountain is an example of this. The day may come when its water dries up and there is nothing we can do to stop such a tragedy. We do know this. Unlike the uncertain flow of water, the power of our will is strong and enduring. The will of the Chozo will never run dry. That really reminds me of the scene from Final Fantasy VII Remake at the very end when Sephiroth tells Cloud to be careful because that which lies ahead does not yet exist. That, like, even if you know the future, it doesn't matter because you can't stop it from happening, you know. There's an ancient Greek myth about a princess who was cursed and who had the ability to know the future, but she was cursed that nobody would ever believe her. She was one of the princesses of Troy. She warned the royal family not to do a bunch of stuff that ultimately leads to the Trojan War happening. She basically tells them that all the things that they're talking about doing will lead to Troy being destroyed, and then they all tell her she's, you know, that's not true. And then Troy ends up being destroyed, so... Alright, we used some bombs to... Sorry, I didn't describe that. There were 3 outlets we had to use, each one requiring a bomb hop. And we did it, and then the vault, which was like a bunch of walls, opened up, and we got a missile expansion. Now we're looking over the plaza that we came in the beginning, and there's an energy tank on like a little ledge, so we're gonna grab that, and then we're actually gonna hop down because there's some other missile expansions that we can get now that we have more stuff. The plated beetle that we had previously fought in the temple, there's now one in the plaza as well, as opposed to a bunch of smaller beetles. Let's see here. But there's one that's still, we went into the shrine where we fought the original plated beetle, We're just doing that real quick to get a missile expansion. We're not actually going to fight it again. There's nothing else we can do in here for now. There is another missile expansion, and then a pathway to another area that we can't access yet. Because we need a couple of other upgrades that we haven't gotten yet. So, you know, another topic with the Switch 2 that people have talked a lot about is this game chat feature, which seems really similar to Discord. I know Nintendo's very excited about it, and I don't think it will get as much use as they think. But when I look at it and what they presented, it does seem to have... now we're going back through the first area we went to towards the Hive Totem. And this will actually take us back towards that elevator to Magmore, because the area at the back of the Hive Totem has a Morphball tunnel we couldn't use the first time we came here that will take us there. But there's 2 missile expansions along the way. So we want to make sure we get those. The first one's in the Ruined Nursery, and then the second one is in so in the Ruined Nursery there's like little Morphball, there's like a Morphball puzzle carved out in the walls, and the first one we have to blow up a block, and that drops another block, which opens up another passageway, and then we hop up to the second level. There's another way into this little puzzle in the wall. We blow up a block, we hop up, there's another little like sandstone block we blow up. Now that metal block that I just said we dropped before blocked me from falling down into the first entryway, and that lets me go to the end of the puzzle, which has a missile expansion. So now we're up to 40 missiles? After you defeat Flagra, some of the enemies in the ruins change, and then they'll change again in some parts of the missile expansion acquired. So there's like a Morphball tunnel thing along the wall in the ruined gallery, which was one of the rooms we just skipped over basically on our way to the Hive Totem. So I think that's all for now. We can get up to 250 missiles over the course of the game. But I think game chat could have some really specific utilities. Number one, it's got a lot more clear set up parental controls than a lot of social media sites do, where parental controls are weak or can easily be you know, overridden. So I think for teaching kids how to use those types of chat features, you know, I think it could be useful, because parents will have full control over, you know, who their kids can friend and whatnot. So for internet safety for young people, I think it's really key. And then, you know, depending on what kind of features they have on it, it could have certain other utility in addition. But I think the main thing is it's an alternative to Discord for, like, young children. Which, I mean, I think that's good. I don't know that that's as much that's gonna be you know, I don't know that the adoption rate for that is gonna be at the level Nintendo wants, especially considering, I mean, it's possible that a lot of the early adopters of the Switch 2 are more adult gamers who are Nintendo fans, who have disposable income, to, you know, play their favorite franchises. I mean, there will be a lot of families that buy it, but I think you're probably looking more at, like, second and third waves for more casual family purchases, or a Christmas gift. I'm anticipating Nintendo's expecting a big holiday season for this system. So this is a Grisby. It's like a weird thing with a shell that just kind of wanders around. Um, we destroy it with missiles. We can't. It's immune to all beam weapons. It's just like a simple creature. So now we're in like a magma cavern thing. You hear the music's changed. So we're hopping across platforms in magma. It's like volcanic dark rock. We got new enemy species. A burrower, which is a tunneling insect, similar to the beetle, though it spends more time underground. It seeks seismic disturbances than surfaces to attack. It has enough cunning to realize when something is too large for it to handle. Beyond that, it is fairly ignorant. What it lacks in brains, it makes up for with aggression. Just like most simple enemies, it doesn't take that. Now we're into the actual Magmor cavern, so this is a lava lake. So we see metal platforms, rock platforms. We're about to meet the Magmors, for which this dungeon is named. They're like one-eyed, or no, they're like dragon things. Magmor, fire-breathing serpent that dwells in lava. Magmors prefer extreme heat and are susceptible to frigid attacks. Sightless, they navigate the lava currents using their sonar receptors. Magmors have a keen sense of smell, enabling them to pinpoint targets with startling accuracy. So they've got like, they look like eyes on the front, but I guess they're sonar receptors. And then the other enemy in here are puffers, which are unstable gas-filled organisms that rupture on contact. They fill their bodies with lethal metaviperine gas and then float around in search of food. If ruptured, the gas within the puffer is violently released. Despite their fragile bodies, puffers are aggressive hunters. The gas cloud they release upon death is often fatal to the creature that brings them down. So they're like circular enemies that have some kind of like spokes that come off of them. I don't know. They kind of remind me of like coughing and wheezing from Pokemon, if you know what those look like. The mouse feature could be cool. I mean, the only thing I've ever noticed though is that like a lot of times the gimmicks with systems, they don't mean a lot after the first couple of years for Nintendo systems. Like, there are always a handful of games that really utilize them, but I feel like a lot of those come out early on in the system's lifetime, and then after a while, they're just releasing games that use the controller functions or whatever. And that doesn't mean it's bad, it just means, like, you know, the gimmicks are cool and they sell hardware, but after a while, people just kind of forget about them, and I think the developers often do too. There'll usually be like little things in the later gen games that utilize that stuff. I mean, like, but you know, we'll see with the mouse feature. I think it'll be interesting. The gimmick with the Switch was basically that the Joy-Cons and the fact that it could go on the go, which actually was a great thing. Since that's not a gimmick anymore, and that's just what Nintendo's doing right now, how the mouse stuff works will be interesting. Okay, so I just scanned a Triclops, hard-shelled creature with powerful jaws. The Triclops is a hunter-gatherer. It collects small creatures and bits of food stuff, then deposits them elsewhere. Later consumption. The hard tripartite mandibles uses to move earth and rock are quite strong and difficult. So these things are like little reptile-like things. They have 3 like claws, and they can grab onto Samus's morph ball. They can also grab onto her morph ball bombs, at which point the bomb blows up and then it defeats the enemy there. So we had to roll under an area, and there was a bunch of them there. Now there's an even bigger area. We're in a huge area. This is the Triclops pit. So when there's like a whole, so like there's like a metal grate that we can see under, right? And the Triclopses are under there, and that's at the bottom of this area. This area is actually pretty big. And so we're rolling through this area underneath this grate. So like when we're not in morph ball mode, we get out of it, we can walk over it, and the Triclopses are just there. We can see them. They don't do anything. But there is a missile expansion in like a small little storage area for us to grab. And you can never have too many missiles. Especially at the end of the game when you have to use them like crazy against some of the endgame enemies. So we got that. Now we're gonna go back through the little Triclops area. Though we killed some of them, so it doesn't really matter. Not much of an impact. Get out of there, and there's like a small little like room we had to go into. And then now we're back out into the wider thing. It's a huge cave. We can see there's like things hooked into the walls where there's like plasma and stuff. So the, you know, probably space pirate technology where they're harvesting, you know, volcanic energy or whatever from down here to power all their stuff. We hop along. We hop up some ledges here to get back to where we started, and then there's some platforms that we can hop across. There's some puffers in the way, but it's no big deal. Now we're in a tunnel with some platforms that are going up and down in magma. So, and there's a bunch of puffers in the way as well. Just quickly hop through those. Okay, now we're in the monitor station. This is a huge room. There's a big space pirate structure that goes up 3 levels in the middle. It's got turrets on it. We can destroy those with missiles. I guess I missed one. Well, that was inconvenient, but it's okay. So currently we're actually heading through Magmore to get to another area, which is an icy one. We'll do more exploring at Magmore later. Let's see, is there any pirate data on this level? We go across this bridge here. There's like another ledge we could jump up to, but we can't get high enough for it. So clearly that means there's something, an upgrade we're missing. And then we're going through a tunnel, and these puzzles are always interesting, right? So there's like an upper level that I have to be able to use morph ball bombs to get to, but where the upper level is, where I'm hopping up from, there's like destructible floor, and underneath the destructible floor is magma, which does a lot of damage very quickly. So I have to hop and then hop again in the air. Okay, and I got up to now the 3rd level. Alright, and fortunately I got the energy tank at the top of this thing, and then it actually just drops me down to the very end of the maze. So, we're gonna scan here for the Phendrana Drifts North, so we'll go up the elevator, and all the elevators look the same. Yeah. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what features they have. Another thing that looks good, it looks like the eShop, while it isn't as, it still doesn't look to be on the same level as the PlayStation eShop, because Nintendo, just for whatever reason, always has to do things their own way and not have just like a browser. They send you into a browser as opposed to just like having the app be like embedded into your home system. Okay, so now we're in like an icy cave here. We walk out, we're into Phendrana Drifts, like a big open area. It's like, I think this is the frozen lake, or Phendrana, maybe? I can't remember the name is. I'll check the map. So it's an icy area. There's multiple. So this is the Fendrana shorelines. There's like water in part of it. We're actually just gonna go save. This is a good place to actually end off at. Before we before we move into the next part of the game. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they utilize the mouse. Like, you know, since I'm big into Fire Emblem, from a Fire Emblem perspective, I'm interested to see what kind of a mouse controller can do. You know, if they just they've had a habit of having like kind of like optional mini games that have really divided the fan base, and Engage and some other stuff in Three Houses. So, you know, if they just use it as a gimmick for some dumb mini games that a lot of the hardcore players don't really care about, and I played the mini games, they were fine, but they were optional mini games. It's like kind of a funny but really unnecessary aspect to Fire Emblem. You know, I'm interested to see if they can actually incorporate that somehow into the gameplay in a way that doesn't ruin it. You know, because if you force someone to do something with like a mouse thing and it doesn't work, then you can make the game a lot harder unnecessarily, which is always the risk of trying to make certain gimmicks mandatory for games that aren't obviously predisposed to them. But I mean, I'm intrigued to see how it works. I think Samus gets like psychic powers in Metroid Prime 4, so I think that the mouse thing could work with that. But yeah, I'm intrigued. You know, haven't meant to sound negative on Nintendo. Like, I do plan to eventually get their hardware. I've had every Nintendo system since the N64. Even if I haven't bought it immediately on release. But, I think it's worth having the real conversation first. And in all honesty, Nintendo's holding a lot of stuff back. They've announced a lot of third-party games that are already released, coming, like Cyberpunk and stuff, and those games have already come out. But I think they're, you know, and while they've announced some stuff, like there's a FromSoft game I think called like Duskbloods or something coming out in next year, and then there's the Hyrule Warriors game, and then there's Metroid Prime 4, and I mean really the only two like big games in the first month that are like new first-party Nintendo IPs, which like those are the people that buy a system on launch, and the big Nintendo super fans that'll pay anything and whatever, are Mario Kart and Donkey Kong. And like I said in the last video, I think they're holding a lot of stuff back. Doug Bowser, the president of Nintendo, did an interview where someone asked him like, why isn't there a 3D Mario game, and he basically said, well, we have a whole list of IPs that we're working on projects for, and you know, we're holding them back because we don't want to have them all released at the very beginning. Essentially, was like a, you know, he said it, you know, a little bit more confusingly than that, but that was essentially his argument, was saying like, we have, you know, if you want to think about like all the big Nintendo IPs, I mean, I think on the Nintendo Today app they have a Mario section, a Zelda section, a Metroid section, a Fire Emblem section, a Xenoblade section. They've got Super Smash Bros. They've got, which, you know, while that's, you know, branded as with Mario on the front, I mean, it's essentially its own thing, more in a much larger way than like Mario Kart is still very much a Mario aligned IP. Let's see, I'm trying to think, what else does Nintendo have? I mean, if you want to look at like older IPs that haven't gotten as much attention recently, they have Star Fox, they have, you know, Kirby in the Forgotten Land is getting an upgraded version. Yoshi, Donkey Kong is finally getting a 3D game, and like I'm super happy for Donkey Kong fans. If you're someone like that, DK64 was like one of the games that got you into gaming or whatever, because it was kind of just like this silly, like purely like DK64 really encapsulates what the late 90s were like, just like how silly and I mean, just kind of that was kind of the world heading into Y2K. And if you've been waiting for this for your whole adult life, basically, because you played DK64 when you were 10 years old or whatever, and now you're in your late 30s, good for you. I'm really happy. I hope this Donkey Kong Bonanza game looks good. It looks intriguing enough to me that I might pick it up, like if it was ever on sale, if they were doing like a Donkey Kong sale or something like that, and they put a bunch of their DK products on sale, which like Nintendo just doesn't do stuff like that often. Which, I mean, they make a lot of money, but I think they do miss out on some people buying some of their products, or their products having like longer shelf lives by not having them be on sale. Like I think Donkey Kong Bonanza will do really well, but to me it doesn't feel like a game that's gonna like keep selling for like years and years and years after release. I mean, the minute Nintendo announces like a 3D Mario game, I think you're gonna see that game's sales pretty much fall off. Because they're being made by by some of the same people. Nintendo really doesn't like to tell you like what specific teams in their various divisions are making games, because they've always kind of stood behind the shield, so to say, of the Nintendo seal of quality, and they always try to argue that like anything that's a Nintendo first party IP, it doesn't matter what team we assign to make it, it would be the same quality no matter what, which obviously is not true, but that's their marketing. Anyway, not to drag on too long, because I'm not really doing anything in game right now. But I am excited for Nintendo Switch 2. I'm really intrigued to see what happens after this Mario Kart World DK launch, because I think you're gonna you won't see them like announce like reveal trailers for everything, but I think you're gonna see a lot of teasers and other things like, hey, Xenoblade has something coming up, Fire Emblem has something coming up, new Kirby game. Kirby has 2 things coming out this year, so I don't think there'll probably be that much for Kirby in 2026, but I think Zelda's anniversary is next year, so like it feels like the Hyrule Warriors game could end up, I could see that coming out in January, kind of being like the kickoff to like a year of Zelda. And that 2026 is like all about Zelda. The Mario 40th anniversary is later this year, so I think that that's a big thing. Fire Emblem had its 35th anniversary a couple days ago, and has gotten a couple things this month, where Path of Radiance is going to be on the new NSO system, which is great, because if you want to play that game, you basically have to either pay hundreds of dollars on the secondary market or pirate it. So if you're someone who doesn't believe in that, or have the money to do that, or a GameCube to actually play it, Nintendo is essentially offering you an opportunity to basically, I mean these digital libraries you're renting a library from them for a year. And but Path of Radiance isn't a game that should, you play on the easiest difficulty. And it's a reasonably challenging game, but it's not going to take you 100 hours or something like that to complete it, even if you do a decent amount of the optional side conversations and things like that. Some of the chapters are fairly quick. When you get to the end of the game, the maps tend to get a little bigger, and some of them aren't that greatly designed, but I mean, the big climax. I won't spoil it, because I may stream it at some point when I get a Switch 2 down the line. But but I really think that Nintendo's holding a lot back, because I think they want nothing to distract from Mario Kart and then Donkey Kong, because this Donkey Kong game is the first 3D Donkey Kong they've done in a long time, and I really think they want to test to see how marketable this is. Because if Donkey Kong Bonanza does well, you'll probably see a 3D Donkey Kong game on the next Nintendo system too, but you get a 3D Mario game. And Mario Kart is just one of their premier franchises, and they, just like I said in the last video, they don't want to distract from it. So for anyone who's not a Donkey Kong person, or isn't super into the kart racing, or super enthused about the price, though. That kind of means, like, if you have another system that's capable of playing those third-party games already, you may as well just wait. Or if you're really looking for Pokemon ZA or Metroid Prime 4, but you're like, I'm okay playing with lower power and some features missing, you just buy the Switch versions and upgrade later if you decide you want the money and want that experience. So, the Switch 2 is not going anywhere. And Nintendo will be glad if you buy one. Either way, because they're selling the system at a loss to deal with a lot of the political and economic fallout from a lot of the stuff that's going on right now. So, it's not to excuse a lot of the practices that they have that we can obviously criticize, surrounding how aggressively they go after certain types of streamers and a lot of their practices around, not re-releasing games often enough. I mean, I think it's pretty clear now that many of the games that people said, oh, why don't they release them? They've known about this NSO stuff for a long time, way before they launched it, midway through the Switch's lifetime. It would not surprise me if they had Path of Radiance on a list of games like 10 years ago, saying like, this game's hard to find. When we get the technology to create a GameCube virtual library, this is one of the first ones we want on there. Pokemon Coliseum and XD Gale of Darkness, which are a duology of games for the GameCube that were really popular, well liked at the time, but are really, really hard to find because just like Path of Radiance, there's just a lot of GameCube games that just didn't make that many copies, so they're hard to get. Yeah. So anyway, that's all for now. Thank you for joining us with more Metroid Prime. We'll be back in the future with more talk on Switch 2. Really looking forward to having more conversations about actual games I'm excited for. It's just early days. System's not even out yet. And when a system comes out, they really, really want to push those 2 or 3 launch titles that come out in the first 6 weeks. And then once those are out and they kind of get a feel for okay, we got all the people that are going to buy them, then they can start showing off the actual plans for the full year 1 library. So I'd expect to see that kind of stuff mid-late June. There'll be another direct in September or early October where they'll lay out the whole holiday lineup, because most of those games will be out by the end of November. Nintendo traditionally just likes to sell bundles and stuff in December of the stuff that came out in October and November. And then there's usually another wave of Nintendo games that come out in February. So Fire Emblem has been usually either part of the summer wave or that I think Engage was the big title in the post-holiday wave in 2023. Don't remember what the big title was for last year. This year there wasn't a whole lot because Switch was ending. So you had Mario and Luigi Brothership and some other stuff at the end of the year last year, but really not a lot the last few months from Switch. Though they did announce some stuff right before the Switch 2, like Tomodachi Life and some other franchises that are really popular with more slice of life gamers and stuff are coming back, which a lot of those fans are really excited about. So anyway, that's all again. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll be back with more Metroid Prime as we explore Phendrana Drifts and we get some more upgrades. So thank you so much, and we'll be back with more Metroid Prime 2, more Switch 2 talk. If there's any big trailers that Nintendo launches for games that I'm definitely going to get, I'll probably do a visual description of those as well. Thank you so much, and have a wonderful rest of your day.